Well, many companies are not meeting equity targets. That's according to Labour Minister Thulas Nxesi, releasing the Employment Equity Report. He said white people continue to dominate top management positions in all provinces. The report shows that black African people occupy only 15% of management positions. The department is increasing the number of inspectors to ensure companies comply with transformation requirements. There's currently one inspector for 20 workplaces. Let's get some reaction to this report from Andile Nomlala. He's president of the Black Management Forum. Andile, good evening, and thanks very much for your time. So, firstly, I would like to know, of course, the question we would have to ask is why? Why are we still seeing numbers like this, where over 65% of top management positions are occupied by white people in the country?
Good evening, and good evening to your viewers. Look, we are not surprised by the outcome of the Employment Equity Report. It's been a trend for over 10 years now, where non-compliance is seemingly something that is prevailing. But what is depressing about it is that when you look at the economic active population of the black Africans in particular, is sitting at around 78%. Their representation at the executive management, top management level, is sitting at 15.1%. Yet, when you look at the skilled level, where there's qualifications, graduates, technical skills, you find that we are faring fairly well, which is about 60-something%. Now, what that tells you is that there is something that is peculiar and something that is very concerning, is that black professionals within corporate South Africa in particular, they are not realizing the upward mobility. They are not getting into top management positions. They remain at the skilled and lower level management roles, which is funny. And the report then tells us that you find our white counterparts and Indian counterparts being parachuted or maybe recruited at top executive level. So clearly, the picture that you get is that we have a corporate South Africa that is not interested in doing what is right in our country.
But are they being held to account for that is the other question, because if they've been getting away with it so far, who's allowing them to get away with it? And we're looking at just suggestions by the Labour Department that, yes, we need to increase the number of inspectors. Do you think that that is going to be a deterrent to anyone?
No, the picture here is that we have a situation where private sector profess to be interested in building a society that is non-racial. And when they are pointing fingers, for instance, at government being corrupt, they don't look at themselves and with the issue of not being transformational. Now, I can tell you, to my eyes and to the BMF eyes, is that if you don't transform, you are as good as a corrupt person. If you don't transform, you are good as an impediment to South Africa's progress, and that is not acceptable. The fact that they are not being held accountable is another story. We have to have a government that has biting and punitive measures. As BMF, for instance, we have recently launched a litigation fund.
Yes.
And that litigation fund is precisely meant to deal with these issues. You see, today, government announced that they would promulgate Section 53 that would ensure that companies that are not meeting employment equity targets are not allowed to do business with government. And what we say is that on top of that, as government and BMF, in partnership with BMF, we must be a watchdog that actually prosecute them.
So and what kind of penalties would you be asking for? I mean, we did chat about this legal fund a couple of weeks ago with a representative from there, but what penalties would you be asking for? I mean, it's one thing to say, okay, don't deal with government. They will find other ways, I'm sure, to peddle their business. So what would you like to see happen?
The current punitive measures or penalties that are there, which is between 2% and 10% of turnover, are completely unacceptable.
Yeah, because they could pay them.
Yeah, they do budget for them, but the one reality is that government is not going to have the legal arsenal to be able to take all these companies, because it's clear that it's a plethora of...
So what are you asking for then,
with
this fund in place?
What we will do is that we have to engage. Now the issue must sit also with the shareholders, because at the directorship level and CEO level, clearly there is no interest of people trying to do transformation. Now we need to engage shareholders, and maybe government should take a punitive measure that says directors and executives that don't meet these targets must be criminally charged or must be declared to be delinquent directors because they are not executing the work of their companies as per the requirement.
Have you identified any cases since you set up this fund?
There is a case that is coming up that is very sub judice, but it's a case that I can almost tell you is going to be against a state-owned enterprise where they have made a wrong appointment. And
a state-owned enterprise,
yeah,
not a
it's
private.
definitely going to be a state-owned enterprise where they've made wrong appointment. But another critical issue on this issue of transformation that I want to echo here is that we are very worried and concerned about the level of female management leadership, particularly in the public service and even in the private sector. We need to see a lot more females being put to the fore and being given positions of responsibility. So private sector is completely not transforming. Government is not giving, public sector is not giving female leaders an opportunity to lead. And as BMF, we will be a watchdog that would not just be talking, but we will take them to task via the court processes.
So if I ask nicely, you wouldn't tell us what this SOE is?
No,
you can't.
But I can tell you before the end of the week you would know about it.
Before the end of this week?
Yes,
okay,
because
I'm
we
going to
are
hold you to that, and then I'm going to call you and ask you by Friday if we don't know. Okay.
No, that's fine.
All right. Thanks very much, Andile Nomlala from the Black Management Forum there.